Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified. Today we are going to discuss some important articles from the Indian Express which appeared during the last week. The topics for today's discussion are mentioned over your screen. So let's begin our session. So the first topic for today's discussion is based on this particular article which appeared on Indian Express on 2nd May 2023. So the context of this article is that India is a country having self-sufficiency in food production. But still, the country continues to face the issue of hunger. So various data and statistics have shown that the sufficiency in food production does not necessarily mean attaining food security among the population. So in this article, we are going to analyze why is hunger a persistent issue in India. So this topic is important for GS Paper 2 Social Justice under the heading Issues Relating to Poverty and Hunger. So in the year 2018 and 2019, we found these questions relating to the topic of hunger and poverty. So in the course of the discussion of this article, we will see the important highlights of this editorial. Then we will understand what is food security, India and Global Hunger Index. And then we will understand the impact of hunger and malnutrition on children. We will also see the measures taken by government in this regard. And despite these measures, why is hunger still persistent in India? So as mentioned in the article, let us see the calorie intake situation in India. So as per World Health Organization, at the age of 6 months for children, 33% of their daily calorie intake is expected to come from food, and the remaining calorie intake should come from on-demand breastfeeding. That is, even for the children at the age of 6 months, consumption of food is important for their daily calorie requirement. But the data from 5th National Family Health Survey has highlighted the problem of zero food among the infants and children in India. For example, in the survey, 18% women reported that among mothers with child between 6 to 23 months, their child did not eat any food in the 24 hours preceding the survey. And this problem is referred to as zero food. Apart from it, more than 80% of these children had not consumed any protein-rich food for an entire day. And close to 40% did not eat any grains for an entire day. And 6 out of 10 children did not consume milk or dairy. Now from this data we can understand that for children at this critical age, going entire day without food and also without any micronutrients raises serious concerns related to severe food insecurity. And this food insecurity further translates as malnutrition in these children. So let us understand what is the exact meaning of food security. Food security in the layman terms means availability, accessibility and affordability of food to all the people at all the times. And this is particularly more important for the vulnerable sections of people. So the first parameter to assess food security is the availability of food. That is, the availability of sufficient quantities of food of appropriate quality, either through food production or through import of food. The second parameter to ensure food security is access to food. This means that the individuals of a country should have adequate resources or income to access appropriate and nutritional diet. Another parameter is utilization of food. This is related to nutrition. That is, the individual should be capable to utilize food through adequate diet, clean water, sanitation and healthcare, such that the food which is consumed is nutritious and they are able to take those nutrients. And the final component of food security is a stability of food supply. That is, the individual, his household or his nation must have the supply of food at all times. The country should have a stable food production system and adequate food stocks. And there should not be a risk of losing the access to food due to any sudden shocks. India is currently lacking in these two parameters, which are access to food supply and effective food utilization. Now let us see the position of India in Global Hunger Index. So Global Hunger Index is an annual report and a tool which attempts to measure hunger globally. The report is released annually by these NGOs. Now in the latest report of 2022, India ranks 107th out of 121 countries. So in this index, a GHI score of a country is calculated based on 4 indicators. These indicators are undernourishment, that is, the share of population with insufficient calorie intake. Child stunting, that is the share of children which are below the age of 5 years who have low height for their age. And the prevalence of child stunting reflects chronic undernutrition. Child mortality, this is the share of children who die before their 5th birthday, and this reflects inadequate nutrition and unhealthy environments. Another indicator is child wasting. This is the share of children who are below the age of 5 who have low weight for their height, and this reflects acute undernutrition. So on the basis of these indicators, the GSI score is a 100-point scale, and in this scale 0 is the best score and 100 is the worst score. So based on this scale, the level of hunger in India is serious, as India scored 29.1 out of 100 points. So as per this indicator, India has the highest child wasting rate in the world. Also, India has high undernourishment and high child stunting rate. Now let us understand what is the impact of this food insecurity on children. Now, because of inadequate nutrition, the child will suffer a stunted growth. And this stunted growth has a long-term consequence on their physical and cognitive development. Physically, they may have some issues like difficulties in walking, talking, and socializing. And due to the impaired cognitive development, the children can have difficulties in learning, poor concentration, and reduced ability to perform in school. Also, the children will have weak immune system. That is, they will be more vulnerable to diseases and infections, and this can lead to frequent illnesses and longer recovery times. Also, malnutrition during childhood increases the risk of chronic diseases later in the life. That is, they have a higher risk of heart diseases, diabetes, and other diseases. Now let us see its impact on national growth. Malnutrition can decrease the economic growth of a nation by approximately 8%. And this is due to the loss of productivity caused by reduced schooling and cognitive impairment. So we can say that lack of food security has a significant impact on human development, and ultimately it impacts the growth of any nation. So let us see the government initiatives to address the issues of hunger and to avail food security in India. Now firstly, the right to food is not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution of India, but the Article 21 of Indian Constitution, which is the right to life, it can be interpreted to include right to life with dignity. And this right to live with dignity may include access to food and other basic necessities. The Government of India in the year 2013 enacted National Food Security Act. So to provide food security, the Act ensures access to adequate quantity of quality food at affordable prices. And this is to enable people to live a life of dignity. So this Act provides for the distribution of subsidized food grains to targeted beneficiaries through public distribution system. And this Act covers up to 75% of rural population and up to 50% of urban population. Another government initiative is PoSH Abhiyan. It is an umbrella scheme launched by the government in 2018, which aims to improve nutritional outcomes and reducing malnutrition in the country. The program focuses on improving nutritional status of children, pregnant and lactating women, adolescent girls, through a range of interventions which include nutrition education, dietary diversification, and micronutrient supplements. PoSH Abhiyan is an umbrella scheme which converges multiple programs and schemes of government like ICDS, Pradhan Mantri Matra Vandan Yojana, National Health Mission, among others. ICDS, which is Integrated Child Development Services, is a centrally sponsored scheme which is aimed at improving the nutritional and health status of children below the age of 6 years and their mother. Pradhan Mantri Matra Vandan Yojana was launched in the year 2017, and this is a maternity benefit scheme which aims at providing financial assistance to pregnant and lactating women. Under this scheme, there is a provision of transfer of rupees 5,000 to the eligible women to support their nutritional and healthcare needs. And National Health Mission is a flagship program by Government of India that aims at improving the quality healthcare in rural areas. Apart from these schemes, the government launched PoSH Abhiyan 2.0 in the year 2021, So this flagship program by the Government of India is dedicated to improve the nutritional standards of the child and mother, targeting at Sustainable Development Goal 2 of Zero Hunger, and it focuses on food-based initiatives, including the Supplementary Nutrition Program as mandated by the National Food Security Act 2013. Another scheme is PM Poshan, which is Pradhan Mantri Poshan Shakti Nirman, or the midday meal scheme. So in order to provide food security and nutrition to the children, this centrally sponsored scheme provides one hot cooked meal to the school going children in government and government aided schools. Apart from improving the nutritional standards of the children, it also aims to encourage the school attendance. Another scheme is Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So this is a food security welfare scheme which was announced in March 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. And this scheme provides free food grains up to 5 kg per person per month to the eligible beneficiaries of National Food Security Act over and above their monthly entitlement of food grains under NFSA. Apart from this, government is focusing on food fortification. So food fortification is the process of adding micronutrients to the food. And in India, the fortification of wheat is being implemented in 12 states. And Food Safety and Standards Authority of India in the year 2018 made the fortification of edible oil compulsory across the country. The fortification of milk by adding vitamin D has been started in 2017, and also the salt is being fortified to combat iron and iodine deficiencies. And also Government of India has established Price Stabilization Fund to regulate the volatility in price of important commodities like onion, potatoes and pulses. Now, despite these initiatives by the government, let us understand what are the reasons for the prevalence of widespread hunger in India. One reason is inappropriate child feeding practices. So WHO recommends that breastfeeding should be initiated within the first hour of birth, and the infant should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months. But as per the 5th National Family Health Survey, only 42% of infants in India are breastfed within 1 hour of birth, and only 64% of infants are exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months. Another factor is low female literacy. So nutrition levels are also impacted by the education level of women. So when there is lower female literacy rate, it leads to poor awareness about nutrient rich diet, personal hygiene, good feeding practices among others. And as the female literacy rate in India is only 65%, and also in the state where female literacy rate is much lower, such as Bihar and Rajasthan, there are high levels of malnutrition in children. Another factor is poor sanitation. So due to poor sanitation and lack of hygiene, there is a risk of repeated infection with diarrhea, and this can lead to chronic malnutrition as the intestine are not able to absorb the nutrients fully, and this is strongly correlated with stunting. So this risk factor of malnutrition due to poor sanitation can be seen from the fact that in the 4th National Family Health Survey, the proportion of people in India with access to improved sanitation facilities was only 49%. Another important factor is micronutrient deficiency. As per a survey, more than 80% of Indian population suffers from micronutrient deficiencies, and because of which their immunity is compromised. And this micronutrient deficiency in India is directly related to the lack of dietary diversification in India. This may be because of cultural reasons and also because of lack of affordability, changed dietary habits, crop homogenization, and also due to the consumption of processed food, which results in the loss of micronutrients. Other reasons are intergenerational linkage. This means that a mother who is malnourished is most likely to give birth to a child who is also malnourished. And one of the most important reasons for the prevalence of hunger in India is rising food inflation. So this lack of affordability due to rising food inflation does not allow people to buy and eat nutritious food. As per a report, 1% increase in food inflation leads to 0.3% of increase in both infant and child mortalities and 0.5% increase in undernourishment. And also climate change is also responsible for poor nutrition status of food. And finally, we can say that the problem of hunger in India is also due to the limitations of existing government schemes. For example, the ICDS scheme, Integrated Child Development Services, while this was mostly successful, it could not make a significant dent in child malnutrition. This was because this food supplementation scheme was mostly targeted for the children who were above the age of 3. But from the discussion, we can see that malnutrition can set in an early age. It can set in even the children who are under the age of 3. And that's why the schemes like these do not target these infants or younger children. Another limitation is that in the Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandan Yojana, there are some stringent conditions to avail its benefit, such as the scheme does not take in account the teenage mothers, and also the benefit of this scheme is limited to single birth, and the poor women who birth more than one child cannot avail the benefits. Further, in the public distribution scheme, that is PDS, there are various exclusion errors. Also, there are various leakages and diversion of food grains. Further, in many regions, in the PDS basket, there is an exclusion of nutritious items such as pulses and edible oil. So, due to the limitations of existing schemes, the food is not reaching the needy or the most vulnerable population. And so, achieving food sufficiency does not necessarily mean attaining food security. So, what is the way forward in this regard? The first measure is to address the inefficiencies of food distribution systems. That is, to address the leakages problem in public distribution system to ensure that food reaches the last mile, to strengthen the grievance redressal system, and to strengthen the social audit mechanism. Further, there should be ease of technology adoption to minimize the exclusion gap in this scheme. One such way is by issuing digital ration cards. And these ration cards should be made functional throughout the country, such as the migrant laborers can take the advantages of this PDS system. Another measure is to develop appropriate food-based metrics or a parameter to effectively monitor and assess the performances of government schemes, especially PoSH 2.0, which is aimed at Sustainable Development Goal 2. And this requires a strong political commitment. Further, there is a need to improve availability of nutritional food, and to ensure it, there should be proper dietary and nutritional assessment for the entire population of India, and such assessment can measure the availability, accessibility and affordability of nutritional food for these sections, and thus they can help in the development of an evidence-based policy to eliminate hunger and improve the nutritional security of India. Further, there is a need to strengthen global partnership, and India needs to learn from the first world countries by adopting the best practices from these countries, and also by investing in research and development for more sustainable solutions. Further, to improve the nutritional content in food, there should be special focus on improving the soil health and crop diversification. For this, there is a need to adopt sustainable farming practices, soil conservation. This can be done through organic farming, reducing chemical fertilizers, promoting the use of biofertilizers and crop rotation. Also, there is a need to diversify crop production, promoting disaster resilient crops and researching on improved seed varieties, expanding food fortification, and also, if the need arises, exploring genetically modified crops. So, by effective adoption of these measures and by other innovative solutions, the problem of hunger and malnutrition should be addressed, which is important to meet the Sustainable Development Goal 2 and also for human development. So the next topic for today is based on this particular article which appeared in Indian Express on May 5th. The context for this article is that recently the World Press Freedom Index has been released, and the Union Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has argued that India does not subscribe to the views and ranking under the Freedom Index. Now for UPSC examination, this is important for the prelims examination under various important reports and rankings. Also for the mains examination for GS paper 2 under the heading Governance, Pressure Groups and Formal and Informal Associations. Also for the GS paper 4 it is important under Media Ethics. So recently in the 2023 edition of the World Press Freedom Index, which was released by Reporters Without Borders, India has obtained 161 rank out of 180 countries. and India has slipped or fallen behind by 11 places in the index. And presently, by these rankings, India ranks below the countries such as Somalia, Pakistan, and even Afghanistan. So, what is Reporters Without Borders, which releases this index? So, it is an international non-profit organization and a global media watchdog which is headquartered in Paris. It publishes a yearly report on press freedom in countries across the world. It was founded in 1985 with an objective for defense and promotion of freedom of information. And it has a consultative status with United Nations, UNESCO, the Council of Europe, among others. Press freedom is the ability of the journalist as individuals and collectives to select, produce, and disseminate news in the public interest. And such news which are disseminated should be independent of political, economic, legal, and social interference. And also, press freedom means the absence of threats to the physical and mental safety of these journalists. Now let us see the methodology of the World Press Freedom Index. The index compares the level of press freedom globally, and it has a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 is the score for the worst performance and 100 is the best possible score. Norway, which topped the index this year, scored more than 95 points, while India scored around 36 points in the index. And from this figure we can see that India lies in the very serious category in the index. So let us see some major global concerns which were highlighted in the report. The report said that the dissemination of propaganda and fake news has increased globally, and this is because the fact that artificial intelligence has blurred the line between real content and fake news. Another major concern is acquisition of media outlets by oligarchs. That is, the media is being influenced by some powerful people and institutions. So these were some major concerns in the report. Now let us see why India disagrees with the findings of the report. The government of India does not subscribe to the index rankings due to the fact that the index is based on a limited sample size, and the government has maintained that there is an opaqueness in the World Press Freedom Index survey as the methodology used is questionable and non-transparent. In India, freedom of speech and expression is a constitutionally guaranteed fundamental right. This is granted by the Article 19 of Indian Constitution. Article 19, Clause 1, Subsection A guarantees freedom of speech and expression to all citizens. However, this freedom of speech is subjected to certain restrictions under Article 19, Clause 2. And these restrictions are in the matters related to interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation or incitement to an offence. So these are some reasonable restrictions to the freedom of speech and expression. So let us see some legislations for regulation of media in India. The Press Council of India is a statutory autonomous body, and this has been set up under the Press Council Act 1978. So this is a self-regulatory watchdog for the press in India, which aims to preserve the freedom of press and improve the standards of newspapers and news agencies. It considers complaints filed by the press concerning curtailment of press freedom, physical attacks on journalists, among others. There is a Cable Television Network Regulation Act 1995 for the regulation of television channels in India, and for the regulation of digital news publishers, IT Rules 2021 have been enacted under the Information Technology Act 2000. So these are the intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code. And to promote independent functioning of press or media, India along with other G7 countries has adopted Resilient Democracies Statement at the 2022 G7 Summit. Now let us see what are the challenges created or faced by media in India. The first issue is paid news. So in India, it is generally seen that political parties have been using the media houses for their political propaganda, and paid news are a manifestation of this propaganda, which demeans the freedom of press. Another issue is cross-media ownership to influence news. So what happens here is that a single corporate house owns different form of media, such as the institution can own print media, electronic media and social medias. So this cross-media ownership makes it easy for circulation of news as per their convenience. Another issue is biased reporting. Generally, it has been seen that The media outlets which are owned by government are biased in the favor of government policies and programs. And to larger extent, this influences the independence and integrity of the media outlet. Other issue is breach of individual privacy. Though the media outlets have right to freedom in speech under Article 19, but sometimes under the guise of interrogative journalism, media houses overstep the privacy of an individual and thus lead to invasion of privacy or violation of Article 21. Another issue is media trials and sensationalism. So media trials can mold the public perception on any person, even before the person is found innocent or guilty before the court of law. And this is generally done in order to promote sensational news or in order to gain TRPs, that is television rating points. So what is the way forward? The first measure is building awareness among the viewers. Viewers or common citizens are advised to form informed opinion, and they should refrain from sharing fake news or sensational news that may create any unrest. So another measure can be regulation of media. The Press Council of India should impose heavy fine or take other strict action against the media houses which are repeated offenders or found guilty in propagation of fake news or any biased propaganda. Also, there can be a mechanism of self-regulation of media houses. That is, the media houses can frame a specific ethical code for themselves and avoid giving consideration to paid news, media trial, and unwanted communal reporting. Another measure is by promoting independent journalism. Now, such kind of journalism can be done by any person or a group of individuals, which may mean by unbiased reporting of events, by providing constructive criticism, and by remaining free from any kind of external influence. One example can be fact-checking. Another measure can be public funding mechanism. Public can crowdfund some media outlets it feels that they are promoting free journalism, and in this manner it can support the growth of independent investigative journalism. And finally, to look into the incidences of killing of journalists or any physical attacks on them, judiciary can take cognizance of such issues in order to preserve freedom of free speech and expression. So now let's discuss some pre-pointers. So the first topic for discussion is Mahadayi River. So it is based on this particular article which appeared on Indian Express on 2nd May. From this article we will take some key terms, that is Mahadayi River and the Kalsa-Banduri River project. As we know that UPSC in previous years has asked questions relating to various rivers and river interlinking projects. In the year 2016 we found this question. So a question on similar lines can be designed as Kalsa-Banduri River project is associated with which of the following rivers? So let us know some facts about this river. Mahadayi River is a rain-fed river which originates from Western Ghat from the state of Karnataka. After travelling some distance in Karnataka, the river enters Goa where it joins Arabian Sea. So one important bird sanctuary along this river is Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary. And Kalsa and Banduri are two important tributaries of this river. Now let us know a few facts about Kalsa-Banduri Canal project. So Kalsa-Banduri Canal project is a project to divert the excess water from the river Mahadayi through two canals, Kalsa Canal and Banduri Canal, into the Malaprabha River. And Malaprabha River is a tributary of river Krishna. But this project is disputed between Goa and Karnataka. Goa believes that the diversion of water from these two rivers will disturb the sensitive ecology around this river in the Western Ghats. But Karnataka has proposed this project back in 1980s to divert the excess water for drinking purposes in the 4 districts of Karnataka. But the project is stalled due to this dispute between Karnataka and Goa. In December 2022, Central Water Commission had given the approval for this project, but for the final implementation of the project, it also requires clearance from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under the Forest Conservation Act 1981 and Environment Protection Act 1985. And also it will require the final judgment of Supreme Court. The next prelims pointer is based on this news article which appeared in Indian Express on 4th May. So recently an investigation has revealed that more than half of India's national sport federations do not have an internal complaints committee. And internal complaints committee is a legal requirement under the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act 2013. So let's know about this act and Internal Complaints Committee. PoSH Act, or Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act, was passed in the year 2013. The act defined sexual harassment at workplace and it laid down the procedures for complaint and inquiry and the action to be taken in the cases of sexual harassment. This act gave the legislative backing to the Vishaka guidelines, which were laid down by the Supreme Court in 1997, and the act mandates that every employer must constitute an internal complaints committee at each office or branch that has 10 or more employees. So the victim under the act can be a woman of any age, whether she is employed at the workplace or not, but who alleges to have been subjected to any act of sexual harassment. So this act defines sexual harassment as any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior, either committed directly or by implication. These include physical contact and advances, a demand or request for sexual favors, sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So as per this act, complaint to the Internal Complaint Committee must be made within 3 months from the date of the incident. However, the Complaints Committee can extend the time limit if it is satisfied that the circumstances were such that it prevented the women from filing the complaint within the said period. And after the complaint is made to the ICC may either forward the victim's complaint to the police or may start an inquiry that has to be completed within 90 days. And in this regard, the power of ICC is that of a civil court. And when the inquiry is completed, the report of the findings should be handed over to the employer within 10 days. And the identity of women witnessed should not be made public. So after the allegations of sexual harassment are proved, the employer can take action in accordance with the provisions of the service rules of the company. And in case the aggrieved woman, who is the victim or the respondent in her behalf, is not satisfied, an appeal to the court can be made within 90 days. And also, under the section 14 of the Act, there is a provision to deal with the punishment for false or malicious complaint and false evidence. And in such a case, an action can be taken against the woman or the person who had made the complaint. So this brings an end to today's session. Stay connected for more updates. Thank you.